Everybody, welcome to the Talking Reds fan channel, and we are here for our Leicester City preview. Before the game tomorrow, I'm joined by Reese here as well. Reese, how the devil are you?
I'm good. Weather's nice today in London, which is quite rare.
Yeah, it's perked up a bit here. Not you can tell because I've had to shut my curtains because of the sunlight.
Yeah.
I can't get a decent camera angle.
Looking forward to the game. Hopefully, obviously, I expect them to pick the usual type of team, but there's certain players I would like to see that we'll dive into as we get into it, kind of thing.
Well, yeah, I've got a few ideas on that one. But firstly, I'm going to go into it. Like I say, it's a big day tomorrow. Obviously, we've had the Champions League during midweek. Arsenal obviously getting through past Real Madrid, which I'm actually not that surprised at, considering how Madrid have been playing at home this season. They've not been at their best. But with that being said, will that extra energy that's been used in that midweek, will that work into our advantage when they play Ipswich at Portman Road? And I can't remember whether they play before or after us. I think it's before us.
I think it's before, yeah. I think it's before.
But obviously the ramifications is if they lose to Ipswich and we win the title. If they draw and we win, we still got to wait another week, which will be a little bit mean, but I wouldn't be surprised if that happens. And obviously if Arsenal win, we still have to wait. But can you see Ipswich getting the result?
It's possible, but it's very slim. If I had to predict, I would say no. I think at best they could get a draw for me, but I still think Arsenal's going to win. But yeah, I'm going off it.
I'm in line to agree with that as well. I think the issue, I thought Ipswich last week when they played Chelsea, they played pretty well in the first half, but they fell away in the second half. I kind of got the feeling that's been like sort of the sum up of their season.
Yeah.
And if we're having to rely on Ipswich to get a result against Arsenal, yes, they'll probably give them a good 45 minutes, but Arsenal is still a pretty decent side. And I don't expect Ipswich to get a full result out of that. So in the back of my mind, I'm not really counting on them doing us a favour tomorrow. But hey, it's football. Stranger things have happened. You never, ever know.
A lot of their Achilles heels has been they've gone 2-0 up in a lot of games, but they've never been able to hold on. They've been pegged back quite a bit. So you're in for a game to a degree, but you can always come back. They don't seem to. Don't really see out games very well because I've seen that too many times where they've gone 2-0 up.
That has been their, as you say, their Achilles heel this season. They've just not been able to hold on to results. And then again, just like Ipswich, we are in the land of Leicester. I was just about to say we're going to Filbert Street, but Christ, I haven't been at that stadium for a very, very long time. Against Leicester, Ruud van Nistelrooy. Could there be something in there that would, I don't know, make Leicester play a little bit better against us? We've had some good results recently, in recent times against Leicester at their ground. So I don't imagine it being a too difficult game. But that being said, they are a side that could still pose a few issues. And I think the way our form has been, I know we've been grinding out results, but the energy levels I could see in the squad, in the team, have been a little bit low over the last few weeks. Well, I'd say a few weeks after the last couple of months, actually, in my opinion. And I do not worry, but there is a slight concern from me on how the game's going to go tomorrow. I'm just hoping that we put it to bed nice and early and we can just not coast through it, but manage it quite well. I don't know whether you'd agree with that or not, or like sort of how we've performed over the last few weeks, months and that. Are we just grinding out results? And is tomorrow going to be pretty much more of the same, or are we just going to grind out?
I'm hoping hopefully not. I would like us to try and actually play well. I'm hoping that Van Dijk news kind of gives that a bit of a spring in the step and to let them know that you've only got a couple games left. That's what I was kind of hoping last week as well with the Salah news. But then if you watched how we played, first 45 was good, but in the second 45, like I said, that was a very hard watch, very frustrating watch. Made it harder than it needed to be. So I think we'll win, but I can't. Like I said, I'm not sure until I'm able to see when the game first starts. But I would like to think with the news of Van Dijk as well, and they're only a couple wins away, that should be able to win comfortably. But yeah.
I'd agree with that. I think looking at the injury news as well, we pretty much have a full strength squad again. It looks like Trent is going to be back and on the bench, I think, for tomorrow. And the only player that's really missing is Gomez.
Okay.
So we have a good, strong squad to pick from. But bearing in mind, can you see the game tomorrow? Can you see Slot changing the team?
I don't think so. I think he wants to get over the line. So more or less he's going to pick his same 11 unless he has to change it. So I expect Bradley. Robinson didn't start the last one, didn't he? But he came.
Tsimikas started and Robbo came on.
Yeah, so I would like to see Tsimikas more, but I have a feeling it's going to be Robinson. But then you never know. You never know. But I would like to think, yeah, he's probably going to pick this more or less the same team. I think he'll do a Cody Gap on the left, Jota up front, Salah, Sabozalai, then the 10, McAllister, Gravenberch. Who else? Konate, Van Dijk. Yeah. I think if Trent's on the bench, he may get some minutes in the second half or something like that. If he's on the bench, maybe.
Yeah.
20 minutes, 10, 15, 20 minutes, maybe you might give him.
I think depending on how the game is going.
That's what I was gonna say, yeah.
Yeah. It's
if it's not going how we want it to go, you might bring him on. You could bring him on earlier, I think.
Speaking of Connor Bradley, actually, as well, obviously has been hampered a little bit by injuries this season and hasn't had as much game time as I think we would have liked to have seen, because there has been opportunities for him there, but unfortunately the injury timings when Trent's been out, he's been out at the same time. How effective do you think he's going to be against their wingers / fullbacks? I don't rate Leicester's defence in the slightest. I think he's going to rip him to shreds, especially when he starts going at full pace and cutting on the inside a little bit. Can you see more of the same of that tomorrow as well?
I could. I want to go back to that game against Fulham, even though we lost. When he came on, we looked much more balanced. When you had a natural right back, and that's no disrespect to Curtis Jones, he is a good player, but we shouldn't be seeing him at right back. I'm someone who I always think if you don't have your usual, whether it's the first or second one available, I would rather play a youngster who can actually play right back. I don't like to put players in positions and be like, oh, just cover here. I know some players can do it. We've had that in the past, like the Milners, even Gerrard, players like that could do it. But I'd rather just play someone who can play in the actual position instead of getting someone to do a job, because it kind of messes up the balance of the team. I do think it's a little bit worrying with some of his injuries, but I'm not worrying about those too much. I have to see further down the line in terms of coming season. Say if he picks up injuries next season or the following season, then that may be something to look at in terms of is he injury prone. But I do really like Connor Bradley.
Yeah, he's more of your typical fullback.
Yeah, he's a traditional fullback. What I like is he can defend, but he can attack. Yeah. Obviously, he's not going to necessarily offer the same weapons in terms of what Trent offers. He's kind of an anomaly, but he can attack as well, and I can see him getting better. He looks very balanced, Connor Bradley, which is what I like.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more on that. I think out of all the players that I wanted to see more of this season was Bradley. I wanted to see after he sort of burst onto the scene a little bit more, and it's just his pace, but not just that. Early example in the season, everybody remembers that tackle he laid on Mbappe when we played Real Madrid at Anfield, and the roar the crowd gave him for that. That is what we want to see more of. And again, he might be Northern Irish, but he's a Scouser at heart. He's a Liverpool fan since he was a young kid. I was reading a little interview that he was doing, I think, with LFC TV, and he absorbs the club. So he is passionate about the club as well, and he loves just playing for the club there, which, again, is what we want. Somebody who is going to fulfill that position, regardless of whatever happens with Trent's contract situation, which, again, nobody knows. But I do think we have a full ready-made replacement on hand. And again, that's down to the scouting team more than anything else, bringing somebody like that through, because it saved us a buttload of money again. Which is probably going to make the FSG guys rub their hands with glee a little bit because they don't have to fork out on that. But who knows what happens in the summer. I think Bradley starts a right back straight off, and as you say, Trent gets some minutes tomorrow, depending on how the game goes. I wouldn't be surprised actually on the team news that Diaz actually starts ahead of Jota, because I don't think Jota has been anywhere near what we expect of him over the last few games. I personally think he's another player that may be in line for a move away, possibly. I just don't think his form's been good enough.
Who's that, Jota?
Yeah.
Yeah, I could see him maybe being sold, but I have a feeling, because like I said, in the ideal world, it'd be nice to get 2 strikers. I don't think we're going to get 2.
Yeah.
We'll see, but I'm prioritizing just getting 1 elite one. But in terms of all the other work we have to do, but I could see them keeping him as the backup option.
Not that I want to see him go, but I think just his form over the last few months is just not. It's not.
Yeah, this is one of his worst seasons I've seen this season, and we know he's always picked up his fair share of injuries. But I'm wondering if this injury might have been one. Not sure if he can necessarily fully recover from that, or if that, when a player gets an injury, it might be one that makes them kind of decline a bit. Well, depending if he's here or not next season, time will tell. But I see Diaz getting moved. I do see Diaz getting moved on, because I don't think they're going to offer him a new deal.
It's funny you say that. Actually, I literally just saw on Twitter half hour ago reports coming through that the club aren't going to, but not in their words, but the way I interpret it is the club aren't going to force him out. But if a decent enough bid comes in, then he more than likely will be on the move as well. I said the one player that I don't think on that side of the pitch anyway is going to move is going to be Gakpo. I think Gakpo is pretty much a shoe-in.
Yeah, 100%.
He just that injury that he got was just poor timing, because he's on such good form and he's just knocked it out of him completely.
Yeah.
And we need that back. We need that sort of form back from him just to get us over the line a little bit more. I think the striker position is always a tough one. We need more goals than to lift that burden on Salah, even though Salah and Van Dijk have both signed their contract extensions now. Salah in particular, we need players who are going to lift that burden a little bit on Salah. And unfortunately, at the moment, the likes of Jota and Diaz, they're not doing it.
Yeah. I do think, though, I'm not going to say who the players are, but I think Virgil and Salah know something we don't, for them to have signed as well. I don't think they've just signed just because. So in terms of maybe
perhaps giving some sort of reassurances, maybe
something, or wanting the club to show a bit more ambition. I don't think they're just gonna stay. If it's just gonna be a one-off season and then it's just like, oh, we'll see what happens next season. So I do think there'll be a couple players in that people might be surprised about. I know Dames thinks that FSG is going to do what FSG are going to usually do, and I understand the PTSD that everyone has, because that's what they have done in the past. But I do think people are going to be surprised, and more so, I'm more confident because they haven't backed him at all, and the fact the guy's come in, got a Premier League first season, or more or less close to getting a Premier League first season, you got to kind of do something. You know what I mean?
The one player I just want to see more of and be used more as Chiesa.
100%. It's so frustrating every game. I'm watching see when we're not doing well. Like last week with West Ham, I was like, where is he? Fulham, where is he? That Newcastle game, I said this. If we brought him on earlier, he scored. Brought him on earlier, I think we score earlier.
Yeah.
Because technically, like I said,
I just don't understand. I don't understand. That's the one thing that you say is a massive frustration on my part. We know, even like sort of after his injuries, he's still a monumental talent. And he can change games. I just don't understand why he's not being utilised as much. It's baffling to me. And there hasn't been any real explanation for it. We could like sort of push that away a little bit at the start of the season, all the way up to Christmas, saying, okay, he needs to build up his fitness, needs to get used to the squad and tactics and all that sort of stuff. But we're only, 6 games from the end of the season?
Yeah.
And he's still not really getting a look in. Me personally, I'd put him up front. I'll just play him as a striker for the rest of the season.
I wouldn't mind either the left or the right. And Elliott's another one I would like to see play more as well, because even when he came on against Fulham, we looked a lot better. I don't know why it is. Maybe Slot don't trust him, but when players are not playing well, for me, you got to use what you have, and you got to bring other players in. Obviously, Salah, even though he has signed a new deal, his form hasn't been great the last few weeks as well. Obviously, he's been great the first half or most of the season. So in some ways, it's like other players got to step up. But I always see it as no matter who you are, you're not playing well, bring someone else on. And I think he should have brought him on for Salah, because with Salah, when if he does get taken off, I've seen it in the past with Klopp, because he's not used to it. It kind of puts a bee in his bonnet, which is what I like. I like a player to know that, okay,
it happened last week at West Ham.
It's not guaranteed.
He doesn't like being subbed off.
Yeah,
that's for certain.
But players need that.
Yeah.
For me, no player should be, even though, we've got certain players, you might say Alisson, Virgil, Salah, even maybe Trent, but players need to know that if you're not playing well, other players are going to get put in. It's a squad. There's someone else waiting. There's someone else hungry in the wings to prove themselves, to fill your position.
No, that's very true. That's very true. I was going to say, actually, just going to divert away from the football talk. Obviously, Damo isn't here for this weekend, so it's me and Reese for the previews today. Tomorrow, we'll have a match reaction after the Leicester game. Fingers crossed, we've actually won the title. That'll be a good one. If it does happen. Who knows? And just remember to like, share, and subscribe to this channel as well. And we'll go back on to just one final point before we finish off, actually. Slot's presser yesterday, and talking about the future of the club and talking about transfers and investment and things like that. And we've already touched on it a little bit. Slot himself seems pretty confident that the club have already, I'm reading between the lines a little bit, but I think he knows he's already got a couple of transfers coming in already. Just nothing's been announced. That's the feeling I get. He's saying it's going to be a busy summer. It's going to be a big summer. And we've heard those same words come out from Van Dijk when he signed the contract on the weekend. Not the weekend, sorry, on Thursday. Saying that the club is expanding. It's looking to the future and it's going to build on that. I'm going to put it to you now, just as a quick one before we finish off. Who do you think our first two signings are going to be?
Kirkes, I think, is one.
Yeah.
Kirkes, and then I think centre back. I think either Hato or Huijsen, I think.
Yeah. To be fair, actually, you must have read my mind because they were going to be my first two picks as well. I think Hato, I think, is going to be an interesting one if we do go for him, because I think he may be a little bit more expensive than Howson. I think Howson's is actually a contract clause.
Okay.
Where we can get involved. I think it's something like 50 million, whatever it is. But I think Hato might actually prove to be a bit more expensive.
All right. Okay.
Which again could put the club off. And again, another price that could put the club off is on Ekitike.
Yeah.
But by all accounts, I can't see Liverpool spending what they're quoting, like 100 million euros.
It's like 80. What's that, like 80 million or 85?
Something like that. I can't see that.
I don't think they're going to make that mistake like how they did with Nunes. For me, if they spend that amount, it has to be someone who's quality.
Proven.
Yeah, he's proven, exactly.
This is where it comes into it. Like, so we've got a game coming up tomorrow against Leicester. And say this is the same point next season and we're facing a Leicester-type team, but the title race is a lot closer. And we're having to rely on youngsters, not proven players, and our form drops and we're not scoring goals, kind of like we are now. Yeah, we are grinding results. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but I would like things to be a little bit more comfortable, and you only get that through proven players. So ideally tomorrow, if we were playing Leicester, I would love to have an Alexander Isak in the side, because you know at least he's going to get a goal.
And he doesn't need too many chances either.
No,
he doesn't. He doesn't need too many. So.
The other name I keep hearing banded around is Osserman.
Oh, I've heard something like that as well.
Which, again, I'm not completely unopposed to. He has a good goal-scoring record, and he's in his prime years now as well. So, and he has a cheap release clause. So that is right up the business street.
I heard we were close to getting him in January, but I can't remember. I don't know if it was image rights potentially or something, because they were saying something that Nunes. That's the reason why they didn't let Nunes go, because that was already, it was kind of all set, but then because the last minute they didn't get him. They were going to get him on a loan or something like that. Or something.
Oh, really?
Yeah, a little something, but yeah.
I won't be surprised, because I think when you look at the options of where we can get goals from, Ekitike, £80 million, €100 million. I can't see us paying that. Isak, the whole Isak deal is going to hinge on whether Newcastle get Champions League football. That is the key issue for that one. Osman, 65 million release clause. For me, that's the prime bit of business there. And it's those type of players that we need in the squad. A little bit of a selfish striker, in my opinion, anyway, to finish off teams like Leicester, who, again, I don't think they're going to get a result against us tomorrow, but I do think we are going to have to grind it out again, unfortunately. So, before we go, what's your score prediction?
I'm trying to think. I'm going to go... Let's see. 3-0, I'm going to go.
Ooh. I was going to go 2-1 to Liverpool. Although I kind of got a funny feeling. I hope I'm wrong. I hope it's like a 4-0 trouncing or something like that. But I think it's going to be 2-1. But I guess we'll see.
Did you see that comment there? I like that comment from Red Visionary. I heard Lavia is going to be fit for the Guard of Honor.
Oh, yeah.
LOL.
As Endo walks past Caicedo and Lavia to collect his Premier League winners medal, and he's getting the Guard of Honor off them. Here's what you could have had, boys. Simple as that. Don't go to Chelsea for the money. It's quite simple, isn't it?
I think he's been unlucky. I think he's been unlucky with injuries as well, though. He has been unlucky with injuries.
Oh, incredibly. But I'm so pleased that we didn't get him, because we have enough injury-prone players ourselves. The last thing that we wanted was another one on top of that. So I'm going to leave it at that. Thank you very much, guys, for watching. If you are on the stream, thank you very much, Reese, for joining me on this. As I say, don't forget to leave a like, comment on it, share the channel around, and subscribe to the channel as well. And me and Reese will see you, hopefully, tomorrow with a nice little victory under our belts, and maybe a Premier League title, or one step closer at the very least. That is what we are after. Thank you very much for watching.